Hello everyone, my name is Hannah. Welcome to a new recap video. Today's recap is going to be all about Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. So this is the second prequel book to the Hunger Games trilogy. So I will have some Hunger Games trilogy, like original trilogy spoilers, as well as some possible spoilers for The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So if you haven't read the original Hunger Games trilogy or the first prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, maybe don't watch this video because I don't want to potentially spoil it because I'm sure I'll be talking about some things. And then obviously if you haven't read this one yet and you don't want to be spoiled, don't watch this video because I'm going to be going through the main plot points of this book and the things that happen. I will say this video is not going to be a detail of every connection to the original trilogy and the other prequel book. So if you're looking for a video pointing out all of the connections and Easter eggs and stuff like that, I'm sure there is another video out there. This is more to recap what happened in the book. And then I'll also be going through this book talking as if assuming that you already know the things that happen in the previous 4 books. So if I mention some things that I'm just yeah, you know this character, I'm just assuming that you know what I'm talking about. Alright, so let's get right into it. So we open the book on Reaping Day, which is also Haymitch's birthday. I believe it's July 4th. And we open with Haymitch and his little brother Sid having a happy birthday moment. We meet Lenore Dove, who is Haymitch's girlfriend, and she gives him this gift, which is a necklace. That the end of it is a flint striker. It kind of looks like what is on the cover with the mockingjay and then the snake head and the kind of horseshoe shape. That's kind of what it looks like. And then of course we have the Reaping. So it is the 50th Hunger Games. It's the second quarter quell. So on the quarter quells they do something special. And this quarter quell, they are pulling twice as many names out. So there'll be double the tributes. So instead of 24 tributes, 2 per district, it's going to be 48 tributes, 4 per district. So after they pull all of the names, one of the boys that is pulled, he ends up trying to turn and run, and instead of going up to the platform and whatever, he ends up running and the peacekeepers shoot him in the head, and then chaos erupts. So Haymitch ends up trying to go find Lenore Dove because she is trying to pull the boy's mother away from him because the peacekeepers are trying to take his body, because this is all being televised and they have to make it look good for the people of the capital, so it can't look, can't have a bad image. So Lenore Dove is trying to help pull the mother away, and the peacekeepers are descending on them. So Haymitch tries to go protect her and ends up in a scuffle with one of the peacemakers, and so as kind of a punishment for that, they say that he is going to take the place of the tribute that they just killed. So they're gonna pretend that he was the original name drawn from it, and that he is the final tribute for District 12. During these beginning scenes, we're getting lots of cameos from characters that we meet in the original trilogy when they're much younger, or just family members, names that we've heard of before. There's just a lot of cameos in these first few chapters. So yeah, Haymitch ends up being the final tribute as a punishment for attacking one of the peacekeepers, and he does get to say goodbye to his mom and his little brother. Very reminiscent of Katniss and her reaping, saying goodbye to her mother and her little sister. Plutarch is there, and he kind of helps Haymitch say goodbye to his mom and little brother because they originally weren't going to let him say goodbye, but he says oh, if they can get this nice shot for the cameras or whatever of them pretending Haymitch's name was drawn, then he'll let them say goodbye. So then we get the train ride to the capital. So we've got the 4 District 12 tributes, and then they're kind of team. Haymitch decides to ally with this little girl, Luella. She's 13 years old. She's from District 12, and they knew each other obviously prior to the reaping. And he calls her sweetheart, which is another callback to calling Katniss sweetheart. And then we get some of the people from the Capitol just being kind of really awful to the tributes. Maisley, one of the other District 12 tributes, she's kind of like the mean girl, and she does her thing on the Capitol people. It kind of just tears them down a little bit and kind of tells the other tributes, like, don't let them treat you like an animal. If you let them, you know, treat you like an animal, then that's what they're gonna see you as. So she like stands up for herself. And then we finally get to the Capitol and we do the big tribute parade at the Capitol. So they get all dressed up, they get on their chariots, and then someone from the crowd throws a firework, and it ends up landing really near the carriages or chariots or whatever. And when it goes off, it kind of causes the horses that are drawing the chariots like to freak out, and it causes like a big crash, big chaos. And Luella ends up dying, the little District 12, little girl from District 12. Haymitch does not want the Capitol to like take her body or anything because he knows that they're going to try to cover it up. So he ends up like taking her body and running with it, and he places it before President Snow's feet and like claps for him, making President Snow own this death, kind of calling him a murderer a little bit. Then, since District 12 has no victors apart from Lucy Gray, who is like gone missing, they don't know, obviously they don't know where she is, so they don't have anybody to mentor the District 12 tributes, so they kind of get the leftovers from the other districts. The District 12 tributes are going to be mentored by Wyrus and Mags, who we know from Catching Fire. During the like training center scenes, we meet another one of the tributes, Ampert, who is actually BT's son. So we meet BT in Catching Fire as well. So this Hunger Games, Ampert was selected because BT did something wrong that President Snow is kind of punishing him for, so he's making him watch his child participate in the Hunger Games. But Ampert is trying to form a very large alliance to kind of rival the careers. So the careers are districts 1 through 4, I believe. They usually always team up. They're like strong, well-fed, well-trained. So Ampert wants to make an alliance that can kind of rival them a little bit. So during the training, Haymitch ends up going over by BT, who is, as we know, very good with like techie stuff, electrical stuff, and he is kind of showing Haymitch how to make like a light out of a potato, and they end up talking, and that's when Haymitch realizes that Ampert is his son and that this is all like a big punishment for BT. And they end up forming a bit of a plan to kind of blow up the water tank in the arena and take down the arena from the inside. Then Plutarch ends up coming and saying that President Snow wants to talk to Haymitch, presumably about his little like theatrics during the parade. At this point, Snow reveals that he knows quite a bit actually about the Covey people, because obviously he learned about them from Lucy Gray. He threatens Haymitch and tells him that he needs to fall in line, and then Haymitch is kind of worried about his mother, his little brother, and then of course Lenore Dove at home. Snow says that he has a gift for Haymitch, like a birthday gift, and in walks Luella. And Haymitch can tell right away that it is not the real Luella. He calls her fake Luella. Later on, they end up calling her Lulu because it is not the real Luella. She is in fact dead, but they had to come up with a replacement so that they didn't look like they lost a tribute before the games even started. So they got this kind of body double. They made her look a lot like Luella, and she is kind of brainwashed into saying like, my name's Luella McCoy, I'm from District 12. But Haymitch obviously knows that it's not really her. But yeah, she's a little brainwashed, she's a little unhinged, and in order to like differentiate, they end up calling her Lulu, but she is like the new Luella, the new tribute from District 12, even though she's not really. Then during their interviews with Caesar Flickerman before they actually enter into the games, the alliance that was forming to rival the careers end up adopting the name The Newcomers. So they've got like a pretty big crew, and the way they answer questions, you can tell that they're all like working together and thinking like in a group mentality. And during Haymitch's interview, he kind of takes on this like cocky, persona so that he can get like good sponsors and stuff. Later that night, Lenore Dove is able to actually call Haymitch because of Plutarch. So Plutarch pulls some strings and is able to make this call, and they get to talk for a little bit. She tells Haymitch like, oh, she doesn't really want to live without him. And then Plutarch also is talking to Haymitch and telling him like what to look for in the games, kind of like giving him helpful advice. And Haymitch is like, can I even trust you? You work for the Capitol. Like, how can I know this is like actual legit information? And Plutarch's like, trust me or don't, but when you're in the games, you know, look for the sun rising in the east or whatever, then you'll know your directions and stuff. So he kind of gives him some helpful information for the games. Then we get to the actual games. The games begin, and it is this like gorgeous, beautiful, kind of paradise looking arena. It's like a big, beautiful meadow and like these gorgeous forest and like bubbling streams, and it just looks like beautiful. But Haymitch quickly discovers that pretty much everything in this arena is poisonous. He watches a rabbit drink from the stream and then like immediately die because the stream is poisonous. He does run into Lulu, and they like are together for a very short period of time before she sees these like healing flowers. I can't remember what they're called, but it's like a flower that they know from back home that's like supposed to be like this healing flower. And so she runs through this like big field of all these flowers and immediately dies because the flowers are poisonous. So again, Haymitch tries to take her body before the Capitol can and kind of gives her like a little bit of a funeral, kind of like Katniss did with Rue. And he ends up getting attacked by this like band of like mutant mutt butterflies, which like electrical shock him, but he finds out like where they're coming from. That's like an important piece of information he needs in order to try to take down the arena. And then of course, because he's getting like stung and shocked by these butterflies, they end up getting Lulu's body. Haymitch meets up with Ampert, so they start to kind of work together to find the water tank so that they can blow up the water tank. And again, shortly after this, Ampert is attacked by a bunch of mutt squirrels, and they're carnivorous squirrels, and they attack only him and like completely eat everything. All they leave is the bones. Haymitch does manage to damage the arena, but not quite take it down, so the games continue. He ends up getting attacked by the careers, ends up killing a couple, and then is saved by Maisie, who is one of the other District 12 tributes. So they kind of work together for a bit there. When it gets down to the final four in the arena, Haymitch and Maisie decide it would be better if they just split up here so that they're not like responsible for killing the other, because they want somebody from District 12 to make it back home. So they end up splitting up, but unfortunately moments later Maisie is attacked by a band of mutt swans and is quickly killed. So it's the final three now, and Haymitch is going to find the other last newcomer. There's one newcomer and one career left besides Haymitch, so he ends up going to find the other newcomer. Her name's Welly. He finds her up in a tree. She is in rough shape. She's clearly not eaten or drank anything in a very long time, so she's very weak, in real rough shape. When Haymitch is going to try to find out like where he can destroy the arena and like going for, I think it's one of these, like one of the like gifts that comes down, one of the sponsor gifts, he leaves Welly, and then when he comes back, Welly has been decapitated by the other tribute, Silka. She's the career. So then it's the final two, because Silka killed Welly. So final two, final standoff between these two, and then Haymitch, of course, ends up winning the games because he realized that the force field around the arena has like a rebound effect, and when Silka throws an axe at him, it rebounds off the force field, and he ducks so that it'll come back and it ends up hitting her right in the head. So then he wins. Instead of just ending it there and winning, he's like, no, I'm gonna take my final stand against the Capitol and against Snow. So he has this like makeshift bomb that he got like from Ampert and from Maisie. Like they've had this plan this whole time. He takes it and throws it down past like where the arena ends, like down by the force field, and it blows up, and it's like blows up most of the arena, but ends up wounding Haymitch in the process. He is healed, and when he wakes up, he has been like crowned the victor. He's watching the recap of the games, which is what they do after the Hunger Games, after there is a victor declared. So he's watching the recap, and he sees that it's been like heavily edited to show not what really happened. It's like timelines aren't matching up with what he knows to be true, and like certain things that he did, there's like, it's just clearly been edited. So then finally, after all of the finale stuff, after the interviews and all of that, he does get to finally return home to District 12. Unfortunately, upon his return, he finds his house on fire, and his mother and little brother were inside and could not be saved. So he kind of does like a last, middle finger to Snow before he ends up going back to District 12, and Snow is like, enjoy your homecoming, or something like that, something kind of ominous. So he comes home to his house on fire and his family dead. After their funeral, he does end up meeting with his girlfriend, Lenora Dove. She was like previously on trial for something, so he couldn't meet up with her right away, but she got let out, and he meets up with her and feeds her like this candy. So they have this little reunion moment, and he feeds her this gumdrop, which is like this thing that they mentioned at the very beginning. He bought her like a package of gumdrops and gave it to his little brother to give to her. And so he feeds her the gumdrop, and it ends up being poison. And he realizes that the gumdrops that he fed her, the one that he fed her was actually from Snow. It's poison, not the one that he bought for her at the beginning of the book. And so then she also dies. So the last chapter of the book is just showing Haymitch kind of descending into depression and alcoholism because all of the people that he cares about are dead. And then of course he had to survive the horrors of the actual Hunger Games. And then we get the epilogue, which is like a flash forward to the future after the original trilogy, after Katniss's Hunger Games and Catching Fire and all of that. After the war is over, we see him kind of talking about Katniss, and like why he calls her sweetheart was because of Luella and the double braids and stuff when he first saw Katniss and she had double braids. But yeah, it's kind of a reflection from Haymitch's point of view of Katniss being the one to stop the Hunger Games. And then that is the end of the book. So that is where we leave off with Sunrise on the Reaping. So hopefully I hit all of the major plot points for you. So if you wanted a recap of the book, or maybe before you go see the movie, you wanted just a quick refresher on the plot points of the book so you can kind of compare the book and the movie. I pointed out a couple of the like little Easter eggs or callbacks to the previous books, but there was so many cameos, so many Easter eggs and stuff like that. So I'm sure that somebody has made a video out there like pointing out every single one. I do not have the time for that, but I'm sure that there's a video out there somewhere, so you could go watch that if you wanted to see like all of the connections and all of the Easter eggs. But hopefully you enjoyed this recap video. Let me know down in the comments what rating you gave Sunrise on the Reaping, and thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!